think we're just gonna help share a little bit of insights into paddle with you guys. The idea for this episode is to be the not so perfect start. um, we're just kind of playing this by ear, taking it as it comes, just to give some entertainment insight into the paddle world in South Africa and a little bit globally as well. Hoping to just have some fun discussions online and with everyone listening. Let's get straight into it, Chev. I think from a paddle point of view.
Okay, so I played tennis for UCT, and at the time I was chairperson of the UCT Tennis Club. I was studying law, and I saw a sheet for all the new first years that's coming. They want to try out to be on the tennis team. I saw Adam van Harten. I remember hearing from that name before, and I heard it when I was much younger, junior tennis player, and Adam was born in Cape Town, and then he moved to Pretoria. Kind of lost track. He's much younger than me, so it wasn't something that I would have seen except when we played tournaments. So locally, if he would win like the under 12, and I would win the under 16 or under 14 or under 18, then I'd probably see him because everyone would get their medals at the same time. But when he moved to Pretoria, went to Pretoria Boys High, and kind of lost track of that name. And then when I saw it again, I was like, oh, I wonder if it's the same person. And then as soon as I saw him in person, I kind of recognized him. And yeah, he made the tennis team. We became good friends on the court. He was studying physio though because he was on a health science campus. I never saw him. Law campus is different.
Yep.
But we used to see each other at the tennis club, and we went on some tennis tours together. And then it was COVID. And then during COVID, there wasn't like much tennis going on. The university sport all stopped. And what happened was I started to see glimpses of my old tennis friends starting to play paddle. And I had no idea what paddle was. And it
Yep.
was Keegan Roy mainly and Jason Blakey Mulder. I knew both of them almost my entire life. They were a little bit older than me. Keegan used to coach me tennis when I
Okay.
was like 10 years old, almost every day. And Jason was the coach at UCT before I went there, but I knew him. He was one of the best players in South Africa. I knew him for a very long time. And then I saw them playing a lot together, and I was like, "Oh man, this the sport looks cool." And it looks like it would be a lot of people that I knew, some people that I thought quit tennis long ago.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, who do I play with though? Because it's obviously a team sport. It's not like tennis where you just like go on the court and play. So I just like round up a bunch of friends, started playing, and I was like, okay, there's some tournaments coming up. Who could I ask? Like, it'll be fun to just see like how good we are. Because everyone, I'm sure everyone experiences when you start in the beginning, you could be fooled into thinking that you are really good.
Yes.
Yeah, especially tennis players, I think. Like when they start playing, but I was like, oh, this is so easy. Like I barely have to move. You don't have to serve. Like it's not so serve dependent and movement
Yes.
based. Um, while I was playing, I was like, oh man, I fell into that same trap. I was like, this is fairly easy. Like, why is there prize money for paddle? There's like almost no prize money for tennis, like locally.
Yeah.
I was like, I messaged a few people, and then I realized that Adam lived really close to another paddle club. So I was like, oh, why don't we just play together then? So Adam and I played for the first time um, together, and he enjoyed it immediately. And we were using like rental rackets and stuff, and we entered the first tournament. It was a league in Durbanville because his
Okay.
parents lived there. And so we like commuted from, well, for Cape Townians, that is a far commute. From UCT side to Durbanville side is like a long trek.
It's like 25
So we
kilometers.
started playing well, and then we saw like another tournament Africa Paddle was hosting, and we entered that tournament as well. And that was funny enough, it coincided with the same day as the league final. So we actually ended up making the league final, and there was some tough, close matches. We'd probably be embarrassed, or maybe not embarrassed because we just started. But in hindsight, we are like, yo, we really struggled against those guys.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And then at the same time that the league final was on, we entered another tournament on the next day, Africa Battle. So it was an Africa Battle tournament, and then the next day it was the league final in Durbanville. And on that day, funny enough, I was playing a league match for Constantia Tennis Club, and I won my league match, but my phone got stolen. And my phone got stolen like on the day, and I was like looking for my phone. I was like, oh, what happened? And then it was like, oh no, there was this guy walking around. It was likely him because he'd left, and actually we thought he was watching the other people, but they didn't know who he was, and he said he was watching them, and so it was
Okay.
obviously him that stole it. So I was like, oh crap! Like the league match finished because I was looking for my phone. I lost track of the time because I didn't play tennis with a watch. So I completely lost track of the time. I was like, oh my god, Adam and I are playing a tournament at Africa Padel in the waterfront. So from Constantia to the waterfront is not a quick drive.
No,
It's
it's close,
it's
but it's
close.
not quick.
Yeah, as the crow flies, it's close, but it's not quick. So I was sure Adam's probably freaking out because we were supposed to play and I was never going to get there in time and I had no way to tell him. So I borrowed a phone. I was like, please just, I had no, obviously, who remembers people's numbers?
Yeah.
So I had no one there knew Adam, so I couldn't like message him. So I just had to like go for it.
Yeah.
So I had to just drive as quickly as possible. And the tournament was actually very kind. They didn't scratch me and they had probably had the right to. Um, they let Adam play the first round robin match with some random guy. And
Okay.
he won that match, thank goodness. And then I came, and then we played the match, and then we played against two guys that I didn't really know before, and we beat them. And it turns out one was like a head coach at Epicenter, where we had end up working, and the other guy was like the previous national champion. But I didn't know any of that at the time, and it's probably better that no one told us. But Adam and I beat them straight sets, and then we won the final. So and that was like our first tournament together, and we won it.
Okay.
Then the next day, and we were like literally probably 5 minutes from being scratched because they let him play that first match. But if I was like an extra 5 minutes late, they would have definitely scratched me.
Because then you would have missed the second match.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. And I think people already, because of our performance in the Durbanville League, I think people already were like, yo, we should scratch these guys because they might actually like give us a tough match.
Yeah.
But they had the full right to scratch us, and I don't know what would have happened if they did, like in terms of the future. But
Okay.
in the Durbanville League, I still had no phone, but we rocked up. I was a little bit not fatigued, but like after the tennis and the stress of getting my phone stolen, I played horribly. Like I played really well the first day. In the final, I played horribly. We were like 5, 6 match points down, and it was like a crazy match. We won it in the end. And funny enough, the people watching us, one of the guys there is now the director of Virgin Active Paddle Club, Elian. Elian was
Okay.
watching. And as we walked off the court, Elian was like, hey, you guys, like, we would like to have a meeting with you and Adam. And Adam and I were like, okay, cool. Because after the Africa Paddle tournament, Adam and I were like, paddle's getting pretty expensive now. Like, we students, and obviously, like, the waterfront and driving to Durbanville all the time.
Yeah.
Like, the expenses are racking up.
I can
I mean,
imagine.
Adam didn't even have a racket at the time. I managed to, Denton from Head was kind enough to give me a good deal on a racket because I was playing tennis with Head for a very long time.
Okay.
So that
Okay.
that alpha that I recommended
Yes,
you
yes,
get,
yes.
yeah, that was actually my first racket.
Awesome racket. It's a shame they
Yeah.
don't make it anymore.
Yeah, that alpha range was amazing. It's probably the person I gave it to is probably still using it because
Yes.
that racket was never gonna break.
Unbreakable.
It's never gonna
Literally.
break. So I had a racket and I was like, yo, but it's getting quite expensive.
No.
And then, funny enough, after the meeting, they Virgin Active, but at the time it was called Epic Paddle. They gave Adam and I a deal to be like ambassadors, and yeah, who would have known? Not us, definitely. I was studying law, Adam was studying physio, and neither of us were doing that at
Yeah.
all. But yeah, if I was 5 minutes later for the final at the waterfront, maybe we would have got scratched.
And you'd be a lawyer.
And yeah, maybe I'd be a lawyer and Adam would be a physio. There's probably a lot more twists and turns from then until now
Yeah.
that caused us to be specifically in this place, which we'll probably discuss in another episode.
For sure.
But yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. And I met you after I already moved to Joburg from Cape Town, and I became a coach at Huddle Park in Linksfield. And then you came to one of our breakfast clubs.
Yeah, and I think that's we've discussed this before, but it's crazy how the paddle landscape has changed today. To think that a year and a half ago that was around about winter, I think, not last year, but the year before. So 2020, 2023.
Yeah.
That's when you, like, end of winter, that's when you moved this side. And at that time, there was probably, I want to say, 10 clubs
Yeah.
in Joburg,
Probably.
3, 4 clubs in
Not a
Pretoria.
lot. Yeah.
Now you can't move 5 kilometers and not drive past the paddle club, you know? So I think that's just on the growth. But I mean, I live in Pretoria, and I was driving all the way to Huddle just to play a
Yes.
breakfast club, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
literally not even today. Some say I'll drive there for a high level breakfast club, or play high level games,
Yeah.
or just the people who I know play there.
Yes.
Then it was like the only social going on
Yeah.
was at Huddle.
Yeah.
So it was it was quite exciting. Not the drive, but like just the growth of the sports. I mean, I got introduced in probably about 2.5 years ago today. So say middle 20, start of 2023. Good family friends of ours put up courts in Irene Proactive Paddle. Shortly after Gale put up their courts, and the one of the co-owners, he introduced me to the sport. They started like a corporate league there. I got playing in 1 or 2 of the games, subbed in for them, and I just loved it. There was something about the sport that was just enjoyable. But I came from no racket sports background. I was still am, but I was extremely bad at paddle. Like I I thought about it the other day. It's actually scary to think, like, I don't even know what I was doing on the court.
Yeah.
It was like, did I have the right grip?
Yeah.
I wasn't
And
I wasn't
it's
standing
almost
in the
like
right
you
place.
only feel like you knew that in hindsight. Like you only know that in hindsight.
At
At the
the
time,
time, I thought I was,
it didn't feel like you were doing anything wrong.
which is the craziest thing. It's just, and it's going to be interesting to see if that mindset continues, as like, because in South Africa, as a paddle community, I think the guys like Adam Warren, spending a little bit of time overseas at the moment, they're definitely getting some more exposure to a higher level of, I wouldn't say coaching, but a more experienced level of coaching. Guys who have been coaching 15, 20, 25, 40 years. And I think that time in the game makes a huge difference. So it's going to be interesting to see how, if in 2-3 years I look back and feel like, what was I doing on the court today?
Yeah. And the other thing is, when we started, there was like no English content really. There's very little. Like when you typed in paddle, as soon as it's in
few
Spanish,
paddle school videos.
Yeah, a few paddle school videos, low production value, and what they were saying, it was difficult to
Made
just
no
apply
sense.
it. It was difficult
Exactly.
to apply it. Like it didn't really make sense, especially like if you don't come from a racket sport background, the terminology they use means nothing to you.
Yeah.
Like continental grip, like if you're coming from a tennis background or squash background, that's fine. But for rugby, you played rugby, you cycled, you ran. Like, what is a continental grip to someone like that? Like, it means nothing.
Exactly.
It means nothing. And sometimes people who spend their whole lives in a racket sport forget that there's people that have never touched any racket in their life.
Yes.
Like, it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
And I tell coaches, because I train coaches often, and I always tell them, you have to assume that they don't know. You can't assume that they know any terminology.
Exactly.
So if you say hammer grip, they have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
If you tell them it's how you hold a hammer, also assume they've never held a hammer.
You have to actually show. You take the
exactly.
and you pull it down the side of the handle, and that's how you grip. Then you gotta hit the net like you would hit a hammer, and then it starts making a little bit more sense. And I can completely relate to that, because first time I heard continental grip, I was like, I think I heard someone maybe say continental grip is what Federer used. He was like continental style based tennis player. I don't know.
That doesn't mean anything.
What does that mean to me, who has no clue? The other thing is, what is interesting, a few basic things, and suddenly you go watch a video and it makes so much more sense.
As soon as you learn it in person.
Yeah, for sure. And watching paddle. I think watching paddle, how much you can learn from watching paddle is very underrated. The only thing that everyone must remember is, don't go watch paddle and try and repeat
Oh
what they do.
yeah. Like
Go,
Tapia smashing from behind the line. Yeah.
like LeBron hitting Chiquitas,
Yeah.
or Galan
Yeah.
Vibra, like
So it's usually like the movement and the tactics and stuff. Those are
exactly,
more important.
exactly. And once you go watch a few of the basic like technique videos,
Mm.
and you go for a lesson or two, and guys, it might sound stupid, but the only way you get better in the sports is by going for 2, 3, 4 lessons,
Yeah.
and maybe if you me like more like 50, and then you still feel shit.
Well,
But
there's some stuff that's really difficult to organically learn.
exactly,
It's
and
very counterintuitive things that you have to do in paddle.
and for me, the biggest challenge that I have, not coming from a racket sports background, is something that I understand is from the day you start tennis, something like a split step is
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
drilled into you like
Yeah. We don't
nothing
even
else.
think about it.
I I have to consciously remember to
Yeah.
split step, because I watched a video the other day and I played quite a good game, but I realized I don't actually split step enough at all.
Mm.
And it's just I have to actually focus on it, because it's not
Yeah.
something that was drilled into me.
No.
Like I watched one video about a tennis coach saying if your students not on their toes, put bottle caps under their heels, and then they'll be on their toes. But like little things like that,
No.
you have to
And
remember
other
that.
people notice. Like it's the other crazy thing is that people, when you don't do something right, your opponents pick it up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So we played at Mark Sparks opening tournament together.
Yes.
And one of our opponents, they told me after the match, they were like, you have to tell your partner not to sprint so fast to the net, because as soon as we lob him, he just kept slipping because changing direction is so difficult. I mean, it was the shoes and the court obviously
Yeah.
didn't get this.
Yes.
The sand wasn't set yet, but they noticed that you didn't split step.
Yeah.
And they noticed that you didn't split step before they hit the ball. Like they lobbed, and then you were still running forward at the time. So you had to somehow like do a 360 turn, and that's why you
Yeah.
kept slipping, and we lost the net every time. But
Exactly.
it's like you wouldn't think that a split step is something that your opponents will realize that you don't do.
Yes.
But they were like, oh, this guy's like not stopping. You just kept running.
No, exactly. And I think it's such a if you come from a tennis background, if you come from
Yeah.
basically a tennis or racket
Yeah.
sports background, it's such a it's a given. You know
Exactly.
how to split step.
Exactly.
So maybe it's something that people need to be taught more and more from a coaching point of view. Is listen, we can teach the technique as much as we want, but there are a few basics such as the split step that we just have to inform our clients on.
Yeah.
I think you can
Also,
get away
like,
with it in
explaining
paddle
what
more
it
than
is.
tennis.
Like the word split step doesn't exist in other sports really. Like
True.
the word split step.
Yes.
So we can't just say, oh, you didn't split step. Like
Yeah.
what the hell is a split step?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think in paddle maybe you can get away with not split stepping a little bit more
Yeah.
than in tennis. I think in tennis a split step is a lot more aggressive
Yes.
than in
Yes,
paddle.
yes.
But just
And your split step is more like a hop, like a jump.
yes.
And then as you hit the ground, you move.
Yes.
In paddle, it's like a split step, like is to lower your body.
Yes.
In tennis, it's not really like
just
that.
to get ensure your balance, ensure
Exactly.
you're ready for the ball coming your
Exactly.
way.
Exactly.
Funnily enough, though, if you go watch some of the top rugby players like your Colbys and so forth, who are really good with their feet,
Yeah.
they actually when they step, they split stepping.
Yeah, they'll do a hop, and then as they hit the ground, then they change
split
direction.
step and change direction, but they need to generate that split step to have the balance in order to change direction, and that's something that for me it's a big issue.
Which is interesting because you're a good athlete. Like you played, you do endurance sports and you play rugby until much longer than other people play rugby, like after high school.
Yeah.
And that you're completely right. Like it's not an athleticism thing. It's like a knowledge thing.
Exactly. And it's you need to be consciously thinking about it, which for me has just been an interesting part of this paddle journey, just from a not coming from that racket sports background, because a lot of people, which is a great part about paddle, it's introducing so many people. It's not just introducing the tennis community, which is like most of the people watching probably are not from a tennis background
Yeah.
because there were only so many
Yeah.
tennis players in the country.
Yeah.
And that's something to note if you didn't come from a tennis background.
Exactly.
Movement is so key.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think tennis players or uh, movement in squash is it as important? I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, squash is like 2 steps lunge, 2 steps lunge,
Yes.
2 steps lunge.
Yeah.
The movement's
That
very
makes a lot of
important,
sense.
but they don't like sprint like tennis players do.
Yes.
And the kind of movement is very different.
That 2 steps lunge is actually very valid because I've seen a few squash players actually 2-step lunge,
Yeah.
especially playing off the glass
Yeah.
and that type of stuff. You see that it's
Yeah.
literally a 2-step and then they lunge towards the ball.
Yeah.
Which is interesting how the
Muscle
memory from the other sport comes through into the
No, definitely.
into the new sport.
So you said Pretoria, obviously, like you started with Irene and Gail had opened the club, but now when you think of Pretoria, you're probably going to go to the opening of that new club close to where you live.
Yes,
That's an outdoor club, right?
correct.
And so if you had to think about it in terms of like building new paddle courts now in South Africa, because we probably almost at a 500. I think it's.
Are we not close to 1,000?
I think we're close to 1,000 now, but like 500 at the beginning of last year, and now we close to 1,000.
Yeah.
If you think about that growth, and now you're thinking of like more courts being opened, how do you think from someone who doesn't come from tennis or someone who's like still fairly new in paddle, how does it feel when new clubs still open? Do you think like location's still a priority? Like you're just going to go to the club that's convenient, or do you go to a club where the top level players play, or where the
Yeah.
best coaches are? Like
Yeah.
if we're just talking about outdoor courts, what draws you in?
So I've seen this firsthand, and this is a huge topic in terms of the expansion of the sport in the country. But convenience. I think, as a matter of fact, I've seen. I don't even think price. I don't even want to say. I don't think price is in a lot of cases. Maybe in some cases, but in a lot of cases, people would rather play 2 minutes from home than drive 20 minutes and play for half the price. So that just shows that convenience is the name of the game. I mean, we've seen it happen. So, for example, in Pretoria, the club that opened up newly, and one of our teammates at Rivers Wolverines, he's actually the coach there, Conrad. He basically, I've heard a lot of people saying, guys, this is close. It works for me. It's 2-3 minutes from home. They're just going to play there. So just like that, out of a pure case of convenience, that club has clients. So I
and
think
they kind of have to get something really wrong. Like there must be a hectic glare, or the courts must be like dead spots, or it has to be pretty bad to negate that convenience.
Exactly. But then again, for your guys who are playing once every 2 weeks, which makes up quite a big part of your very, very casual players, guys who don't take the sport seriously, purely play it for the fun. That's a huge market in South Africa. Do they really care if there's a dead spot? Or if something there? So one example,
The rallies are very short a lot of the time, especially for very like new people to the game.
Exactly. And so the one example I will give is the courts in Hazelwood in Pretoria, and Hazelwood's one of the most, I would say, affluent area in terms of dining experience and so forth. Now their court's right in the middle of this like little Italian restaurant strip that they've tried to make, and the issue is if the ball goes out the court, it goes into someone's house behind the court, and on the other side it goes into someone's house behind the court. Another thing is, as you get better, we start trying to every now and then run out the court. There's no run out space there, but besides the point, a lot of people
would still accidentally hit the ball over.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't play there because of that. But courts are packed. Weekend packed. And it's purely because of convenience. You go for breakfast at the restaurants across, or any of the other 10 restaurants in the area, and
Yeah.
you go play paddle afterwards, or vice versa. It's pure convenience. I think convenience is the name of the game.
So location,
Yes.
basically. So location is still a prime spot number one
For
for you.
sure, for sure. And I think then obviously being good enough from a corporate and financial point of view to keep to some sort of standard, because the challenge is going to come in when there are two courts right next to each other within 100 meters of each other, or say half a k of each other. Now the convenience factor goes away as to which court you go to. When something is noticeably worse at the one court versus the other court, that becomes an issue. If you can see this court is not looked after well, but this court is looked after well, people are going to be more prone to go play at the one that is looked after. Another example, if the food is good at the one court, if the drinks are good, if they make good freezers, exactly. If there's showers, big thing, showers. Guys go and play before work in the morning. They want to take a decent shower. A lot of people don't have time to drive home and shower at home. So that's why the gym has always been so convenient. Because I mean, you've seen the traffic. From Pretoria to Joburg. It's not a secret. It's nothing like Cape Town traffic. But a lot of it's quite common for guys, especially before COVID, after COVID, with all the what's the right word, all the digital stuff, meetings being online, it's changed a little bit. But a lot of the corporate guys work in town in Joburg, Sandton, Braamfontein, that area. Now, you can imagine if you start work at 8, your first meeting, you don't want to be driving from Pretoria at 7 because you only arrive there at 9:30. So you go in the morning, 5 a.m., go to gym, shower at the gym, take gym generally always has water, hot water. Now, a lot of people want to go play paddle. Can't shower, you're going to choose a club where you can
that does
shower.
have a shower facility.
So it's little that also makes a difference. But again, that speaks to convenience. Let's be honest. It's the convenience of having a shower.
It still falls under that umbrella.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think,
and there's a reason.
Indoor. Can someone, guys, if you've got money, can someone put up like a Rafa Nadal Academy somewhere so we can have a P1 tournament here? We can. That would be awesome.
Indoor,
million.
High
Let's go.
Center court.
Can hit sky those lobs. If you've got the money, you can give either of us a ring. And the land. The land's a big part.
Yeah, the land is actually, because there's a lot of, especially in Cape Town, like there's a lot of people with a lot of money.
Can't go build it in the Karoo though.
Yeah,
it's not gonna work.
Exactly. Now, like Padel Island, where all the warehouses are, has like a bunch of clubs now.
Yes.
And like along Coburg Road, 365 just made that Instagram reel. I'm sure you saw it, announcing their club opening.
Yes.
Epicenter is where I started, and then down the road from Epicenter is addictive. Then now Padel 365 is there, but further along Coburg Road, there's like a bunch of clubs that's opening, but because it's indoor in Cape Town, it's like people will rather drive half an hour to go to the indoor facility than play in a potentially windy environment.
Yes.
So that becomes like a thing, not just in Cape Town, but obviously we see now in Joburg it's summer, and just to make sure that you're not going to rock up and then your game's cancelled because of the rain. Especially if you play during peak times, which is like 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at night. You're only going to book an indoor court if possible. You'll book an outdoor court if there's like nothing else.
Yes.
By default, you'll be like, okay, let's play a game. This is not a league or social or a lesson or class or clinic. Just if you and your friends want to play a match, like your weekly match. Like some people had like a weekly fives match.
Yes.
Same thing. You want to go play a friendly paddle match, you're going to book indoors just to guarantee that it's going to take place.
Because some people only have the time to play that one game.
Exactly.
Now, if you only have the time to play the one game, and what happens is it gets rained out, now you have to wait a whole week until you can play the game.
And you might have been like there already, and then you get like it's
or you get like 15 minutes into the game.
No one's keen for that. I mean, we see the occupancy numbers for indoor versus outdoor. Like it's very clear, similar locations. One club's indoor, one club's outdoor. Like it's 20-30% difference in occupancy easily. Even clubs like that some clubs have outdoor and covered courts. The covered courts occupancy goes higher purely because of that.
Yeah.
But obviously we know the capital investment to build a cover. It's pretty much double.
Yes.
So you can have a court, and then it will cost double at least to cover it.
Yes.
And then to make it indoor, so to differentiate, covered means that it's open on the sides, you can see through it. Indoor means that it's covered on all sides.
Yes, and that almost maybe triples your investment.
I think so, yeah.
It'll probably.
Well, you need an
most
engineer
likely
to make it
triple.
structural,
Yeah.
like, because sometimes if you go deep enough in the soil, it's one of the many factors, the depth in the soil that you go, that makes it a permanent thing.
Yes.
Then you have to get like a special permit,
Permission.
and zoning becomes a thing. And, like, there's a lot that goes into building
Yes.
indoor.
Yes.
That's why like clubs will just cover it, just so like
Yeah.
it's covered.
But
we know that it's very difficult to see the ball on a covered court. Very, very difficult to see the ball.
And because of the design of a paddle court, obviously it's got glass on the back sides of each, and then on the back side of the sides as well. But there is the fence part, and when often in Gauteng it's quite common for us to get these like blitz thunderstorms where we have just some random high wind coming out of nowhere, and thunder and lightning and lots of rain for half an hour, and then it's done.
Yeah.
But a court can get wet very, very quickly.
Yes.
And what happens is with that wind, even if you've got a cover on, the wind just
if your cover doesn't extend far enough, and you don't have the drainage at the bottom to stop the flooding from the bottom, then even on a rainy day, so it's like your capital, like your investment didn't really hold up.
Exactly. No, that makes sense. But I mean, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of discussions into indoor, because there's a lot of exciting stuff happening, and we've seen. We're quite honoured when it comes to seeing this new club. Talk about it. And it's going to be interesting to see how more and more indoor courts affect the outdoor courts.
Yeah.
But again, if you get someone here from the UK, for example, they might just be flipping happy to play paddle on the sun.
Outside. Yeah. They just want to be outside.
So there's a little bit of both worlds.
Yeah, I don't think the clubs. When we start seeing clubs really struggle, or maybe if they drop their prices, which is, I don't think has happened, but I can see. But if any of that kind of competition starts to seep in, then we can start to see the signs of a plateau.
Yeah.
Especially in the popular. I'm not talking about a plateau in like some random rural village.
Yes.
Or rural town. I'm really talking about like where all the courts are clustered.
Yes.
Whether we see a plateau, because around that cluster, it's just going like that. Because even if there's 6-7 clubs in an area, people will still build in that same area, because they see that all the other 6 clubs are still busy.
Yeah. Full in peak hours. That's the thing.
Yeah, full in peak hours. If you just full in peak hours, you can probably get 30% occupancy and you'll be happy.
Yep, exactly. I think, and as you say, so when that happens, when the market is saturated, that's what I'm quite excited for, is to see
what they do.
What's going to happen?
Well, they have to.
What are the competitive strategies going to be?
Like, you think about other businesses in the business world, which is your background. You'll have to reinvest in your business to have a competitive advantage, and that all of that kind of competition comes down to like the benefit of our economic system, where competition is going to favor us. Well, it should. Competition is going to favor the consumer.
Yeah,
that's exactly what's supposed to happen.
Exactly.
It just hasn't happened yet. But I do think, and I think we've said this before, because we've gone to some bad clubs, and I think we know that we are probably past that stage in paddle in South Africa where you can just open a very average club that doesn't have anything. It's outdoor, maybe like 3 courts, no community, just a small cubicle, like not even a restaurant. Like, I don't think those clubs are going to do very well if they open in those clustered areas. If you open it when there's no other paddle happening, then that probably is fine. But if you open around those clusters that we were speaking about, those kinds of clubs are the ones that are going to suffer.
Yeah, I think
in the beginning you could. In the beginning, you could put a paddle court anywhere and it'll be fine. Yeah.
And you already made your investment back times 5.
If it closes now and you open back then,
you're happy.
Fine. You can sell your business. It's
you can give away the paddle court. I'll take it. But you can give it away. You would have made enough money. I think what is interesting is just from a not just a paddle court building side of view, but from a development of the sport in the country is something like both your jacket and your cap is from that. But the little bit of the 360 paddle league in South Africa, we both part of it. Luckily, we somehow got in the same team as well. But I think I think things like that is very exciting because it creates a different type of competitive market in the space, creating some competition between all levels of players, creating so the idea of the 360 from what I've heard is they're following a similar to like an IPL style. So there was an auction to buy the players, and each player forms part of a team. That team is run, has a marquee player which plays a marquee game, and then everyone has to play X amount of games, and 4 teams play every Wednesday evening at Gale. And it's interesting because back to what we were talking about, Gale was one of the first clubs that opened in the Pretoria area. And they are now hosting the 360 Paddle League in Pretoria. So the community that they've built is obviously something to applaud. To the Gale guys, you did something right in terms of the community. I mean, I think you can give your quick opinion on the 360 league, but I mean the vibe, 200, 300 people there on an evening. Last week the net broke on the one court because Fudgy just flew over it and the one side just completely broke. And then to the end of the night they were the only match playing, and I think there was a ton of people around that court. Like no run out space. It was just absolutely packed. But what an entertainment!
Exactly.
Your opinion, little bit on that.
So I played in the Joburg League, and the one you talked about is the Pretoria League, and both times I was amazed at how big the community was. So a lot of people that I would never normally have played with, I would normally never have met, just because we're all different parts of Joburg. As like outside of our bubble, people that are pretty live far, play at other clubs. I would never ever have met them. But more importantly, it gives paddle like a team feel, because sometimes it can feel lonely, especially if you and your partner's like disagreeing or you
having
just
a bad day.
Or you had a bad day. But at least now you have like this team environment. I've played in team environments before with paddle, and the Paddle 360 made it feel a lot more unique because it's a franchise, not just a team. Like a team, like you'll play a tournament and it's like a corporate league and you'll have a team. But now that you have like a whole franchise, you're like, oh, I wonder what franchise I'm going to play for. Like you want to be part of it.
There's some commercial side to it as well.
I know, there's some commercial and also like aesthetically pleasing thing that everyone comes wearing a specific color, representing a specific team. There's fan shirts now, so like other people in the crowd are all wearing like the same shirt that you're wearing, and you're like, wow, like this is actually building into a thing. And because the quality of paddle, like obviously everyone's just going to get better. Some after you play like from 100 matches to 200 matches, even if you didn't go for coaching, you would be better. So because the quality of the leagues is going to increase and increase and increase, the spectator aspect and the quality of what you see when you go to watch a Paddle 360 league, for example, is just going to get better. And if they start introducing like a youth system, which they already have done, start introducing different tiers, which they are doing, they're doing all the things that this is easily going to be like the spectacle for team-based paddle. Like I don't see anyone else kind of competing with it.
It's it'll be interesting because if you're doing something good, there's always going to be someone to try and compete.
Exactly.
Which, as you say, it makes a better spectacle for the consumer because everyone's going to try and do something bigger, better, and more attractive to the people watching. Because at the end of the day, they also need to, in time, commercialize it, try and make some sort of money out of their effort. And how are they going to do that? Through getting viewership, through getting attention from the public, and all of that. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm excited. It's nice to be part of all of that as well. We kind of going very long here. Whoever's listening, don't get too bored with us. But I think from a global point of view, it's a very exciting time. World Premier Paddle just started again. we're seeing a lot of new people on the, a lot of new pairings. I know,
Yes.
to name a few, there's
It's the same people, but they're just mixing up.
mixing
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's
It's exactly the same people.
Stupa and
Yeah.
LeBron. I think is it Cardona and he's playing with Augsburger.
Yeah, I think so. Instead of Paquito, yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure you learned a lot from Paquito.
And interestingly though, Galan and Chingota still together. Coelho Tapia still together. We as the season goes on, we'll dig a little bit deeper into what's happening. But just as a teaser, it's going to be very interesting to see who we can take down Coelho and Tapia, because last season they were just undefeated, too good,
way too good.
At a stage, it almost looked like
they were tracking up. Yeah, they closed the gap after they beat them the first time. I was like, well, this is like a mental hurdle, especially for Galan.
And there was the one game. I don't know if you. I think I even saw you putting it on your story.
Yes, it was very easy. Yeah.
Perfect game for Chingota and Galan. I think Chingota made one unforced error and Galan made 0 in an entire match. I think they won 6-1, 6-2, something like
really
that.
Easy, yeah.
But it was, I thought
they played basically perfectly.
Exactly, which is
it's amazing that they had to play that well, because they didn't play that well, just a little bit.
Yes.
And they lost every other match.
Exactly. Which just shows the fine margins.
I mean, there's a lot of tactical things that we'll go into, especially as the matches start to unfold.
Yes.
I can't wait to have those discussions with you, because we both watch it in a lot of detail. It's very keen to see when you play the same people non-stop.
Sure.
Like in tennis, because it's individuals and some like youngsters keep popping through, like Alcaraz just came on the scene. There's a lot of people that will make upsets, but in paddle, it seems like breaking into that gauntlet of very, very experienced pros.
Yeah.
Especially because they're only playing more or less with one another. It's so difficult to like break in.
Sure. No, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good season, an exciting season. I'm very, very keen to get into it. And if you guys have any questions from that point of view, feel free to engage, ask. In future episodes, if there are questions, we're going to have a little bit have a bit of a Q&A as well, just to answer. I mean, coming into paddle, I had a bunch of questions that I didn't know who to ask or where to ask or how to ask. So just ask along. If we see the question, we'll try our best to answer it. But yeah, other than that, I think, guys, we'll see you in next week's episode, and please like, subscribe. Chev, anything else from your side?
I think looking forward to the next episode. We'll be talking about the new equipment, like the development of all the new equipment in rackets and shoes, now that paddle's become such a global sport now. And then we'll talk about the Premier Paddle combinations in a little bit more detail, the tactics that we've seen from Riyadh, which would have been finished by the time the next episode comes out. Any other questions from the community, we'll happily discuss.
So, guys, thanks for listening to the first episode of Perfect Start. Not so perfect start, but we'll see you next week. Cheers.
See you next week.